Hey guys, Mark Daniels Jr. here. We just wrapped up stop number 3 at Toledo Bend for the Bassmaster Elite Series, and as always, here's my recap. I'm gonna go in depth, kind of talk to you guys about the areas where I was fishing, and obviously the techniques that I used to catch what I caught. Excuse me. I ended up finishing up in 28th place, so overall it was a really good tournament. I got some really good points, so I'm really happy about that. It could have been a lot worse, but I made some adjustments throughout the tournament that really helped me out. For starters, throughout practice, I wasn't getting a lot of bites. I was keying on some of the more popular areas on the lake, which are 6 Mile Creek and Housing Bay. Those are really two known areas for producing a lot of big fish, but they're also very popular to the local anglers. And so there was heavy local traffic in those areas throughout the tournament. But nevertheless, we had to deal with that, and I got in there and battled it out and was able to catch what I caught. Initially I had a lot of fish found on beds and fry garters. And so I figured I'd be able to start day one off by running into some pockets that had these fry garters, maybe throw around some top water and catch some fish. What ended up happening to me on day one was actually kind of a blessing in disguise. I rolled up in that area and I didn't see any of the fry garters, but there was a shad spawn going. And so there's bait fish busting all on the bank, and those bass were right there behind them, boom, blowing up on them. And I was able to ease up in there nice and quietly, and I picked my prop bait up and immediately caught 2 nice keepers in the 2.5 pound range, which calmed me down, kind of set the tone for the day, and allowed me to focus on what I was doing. This particular prop bait is a very old one. It's called a Boy Howdy. No feather on the back, just basic, out of the package. Obviously I changed the hooks on it, and it's pretty standard. My setup for this is the Kistler KLX, and this is actually the crank, grip, and twitch rod that I throw my jerk baits on, but it works great for top water, walking the dog style baits, and obviously these prop baits as well. I'm throwing that on a Cabela's Arachnid bait caster reel, 40-pound Seagar smackdown braid, and with the prop bait, as I spoke about before in my earlier recaps, I always put about a foot and a half of Seagar ripping mono. And that's very important so that front hook doesn't get caught up in the propeller as it spins. And then it also acts as a little bit more of cushion, so when you get those really aggressive strikes, you won't lose those fish. So moving along throughout the day, I'm sitting on 3 bass at about 10 o'clock in the morning. I caught those couple on a shad spawn, and things started to get slow for me. So I started to bounce around. I had another area that I had located at the mouth of Carice Creek, and it was more of a flat, stumpy, hard bottom place. And I was kind of unsure as to what was going on in that area, but as the tournament progressed, I realized that they were in there spawning. But it was a grind in there. I was getting a bite maybe an hour, it was really tough. But what I was doing when I got in there, I was Carolina rigging, which I know a lot of people struggle throwing this bait because it's very time consuming. You can't cover a lot of water, and it's just a really slow technique. But at the end of the day, it gets some really good bites, and that's exactly what happened for me. My bait of choice on the Carolina rig was nonetheless the Missile Baits Baby Destroyer. This is an awesome bait on a Carolina rig. It mimics a crawfish or a bluegill. I was actually putting just a touch of chartreuse on the tips, just as I started to realize these fish were spawning to more so mimic a bluegill. Obviously they don't like the bluegill around their beds. They started to bite that with the chartreuse tip just a little bit better. And I caught some really key fish on this Carolina rig throughout the day. Cool little tip for you guys. When you're Carolina rigging fishing, if you're not throwing big heavyweights, if you're throwing something from, like, I'd say an 1/8 ounce all the way up to a 3/4, and you don't have a lot of time, because I put this together during the tournament, I just threw a couple bobber stops on there. I had a bobber stop tip in the last video. I'm kind of obsessed with bobber stops, I guess, but I just threw 2 bobber stops on there, threw my weight, boom, threw my hook on, and there's my Carolina rig. And what's cool about that too is you don't have the barrel swivel, and you don't have the bead and all these multiple pieces. You got your same main line coming through. There's not multiple pieces of line, which ultimately are weak points in the whole rig. So not only is it quick, fast, and in a hurry, it's also the same line, and it's really strong, and I'm not worried about break-offs due to the damage of the bead or the weight or what have you. It's all just one piece, quick, fast, in a hurry. I'm back fishing. On day 2, I ended up catching 2 3-pounders on this bait, and really that was my day. I had 12 pounds. I didn't really do all that well. I was sitting in 66th place going into day 2. So fast forwarding to day 2, I run back to the areas where I had these fry garters, and I just could not get them fish to bite. There were no shad spawning this deal, you know, and the deal with the shad spawn is you kind of got to just happen upon it. You can't really say, hey, over in this creek, in this pocket, the shad are spawning, and think you're gonna roll in there every day and they're gonna be spawning. There's a lot of variables that dictate that, mainly water temperature. And so when I rolled into this area on day 2, the shad weren't spawning, there was no surface activity, it was quiet, and I was not getting any bites on topwater. But something in my mind said, dude, before you get out of here, try something subsurface. The fish haven't left, they just aren't busting bait at the moment. And that's exactly what I did. I had this bait tied up in my rod box. I hadn't made a cast with this bait at all in practice, but I had it in there just because I heard some guys were getting bit on jerk baits. I heard that from my roommate, Fred Rabanis. He was like, yeah, you're getting a few bites on jerk bait. So I had it rigged up. Before I left out of that area, I picked this jerk bait up. And this is an old school one of the first jerk baits I was introduced to. This is a Lucky Craft Pointer 100 in Ghost Minnow. I mean, this is old school for me. And I've caught a ton of jerkbait fish over the years on this exact bait right here. But I picked it up before I left that area. I made a few casts, and before I knew it, I had a 2-pounder and I had one almost 6. And that really set the tone for the day, because again, it allowed me to calm down. It allowed me to fish thoroughly, not make bad casts. My mental was clear, and it allowed me to do what I needed to do. A few hours later, I made that run back to Curry's Creek, same area, and I started to drag my missile baits, Baby Destroyer around. Well, because I was calm and I was able to think and not overfish, it allowed me to slow down. And I had 4 key bites that day. I had 2 pushing 4 pounds and 2 more in the 3.5 pound range, which gave me a grand total of 17-10 on day 2, which skyrocketed me up the points. And I mean, excuse me, not the points, up the leaderboard, the points too, but the leaderboard from 66 all the way to 29th spot. So I jumped quite a few places, and it was a really good bag. Fishing was tough, so that was a really good sack on day 2. So then moving right on along to day 3, final day of the tournament for me, cut day. You know, I'm excited. I'm feeling like, hey, I'm gonna get back in those same areas now, and I'm not even gonna mess with the top water. I'm gonna go subsurface and I'm gonna throw my jerk bait and I'm gonna catch them. That was the mindset. Well, I ran in there, I fished for an hour and a half. I never had a bite on the jerk bait. The wheels started turning for me a little bit. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I bounced around, nothing. Well, I ran back up to my spot where I've been catching my Carolina rig fish. I fished it for 1 hour. I had 1 bite. I caught it. It was a 3-pounder. And now it's 11:30 and I got 1 bass. 11:45-ish. I got 1 bass. And so I told myself, fish here for another 15 minutes. If you don't get a bite, you need to make a move. Of course, I fished for 15 more minutes. I never had a bite. I picked up. I ran all the way down to Housing Bay where I had several bites in practice, but the quality wasn't there. But I needed some fish at this point, so I ran down there. And I got down there, and lo and behold, there was probably 80 boats in Housing Bay alone, local guys on a Saturday fishing everything in there. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I poked around, I started flipping some hay grass. I wasn't getting bit doing that. So I just said, you know what? I'm gonna get way inside of everybody and try to fish extremely shallow in some of these islands that I don't think anyone else is fishing. So I pulled in there, I got extremely shallow in some of that hay grass, and I started to swim this jig. And this bad boy saved the day for me. This is a custom built swim jig a buddy of mine in California makes. And I just have a twin tail type trailer on there, crawfish style trailer. And again, these fish were so shad oriented from the days prior with the shad spawn going on. A lot of them kind of lingered around. Some of them were fry garters as well, but they just couldn't handle this swim jig being popped through the grass over the tops of the head. And this saved the day. And in about 2.5 hours, I caught 6 bass, 2 of them pushing 3 pounds, a couple other 2-pounders, and I ended up with 12, 13 on day 3, and really saved my day and put me up 1 spot from where I started. So that was a good thing. And the setup on this is one of my favorite rods that Kistler builds. It's a 7'4", medium heavy, helium 3, and that's the same rod that I'm using for my Carolina rig rod. Very versatile rod. You can use it for just about anything if you're in a bind. And this is what I also like to swim my jigs on. 50-pound Seagar Smackdown braid. This is a Cabela's arachnid reel again, 6'3" to 1, because you don't want to fish this thing too fast. And that's the setup here. So that's pretty much my tournament in a nutshell. And I did catch a couple keepers also on this square bill right here, ghost minnow as well. But I think I ended up calling those out. And this is a new cranking stick by Kistler, the Feeling Reel, awesome crankbait rod. But I don't think I weighed those bass, but I definitely caught some fish on it. So just FYI on that. So that's pretty much my tournament in a nutshell. I'm happy with my finish. It could have been a disaster. It started off kind of dismal. I had a nice spike day 2, and then it ended kind of on an even note. I didn't do bad, but I didn't do great. Didn't do as good as I wanted to, but that's okay. Looking forward to getting over to Ross Barnett for stop number 4. You guys be sure to stay tuned and check me out. I appreciate all of the likes, all of the subscribers, all the followers. You guys drop questions in the comment section. Let me know what you guys want to see as far as videos, and I'll try to get that out to you guys as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. I'm Mark Daniels Jr. You guys take it easy.